Dream of the Red Chamber by Xueqin. Part 2. Silence settles over a falling empire before anyone notices it has begun. It does not come with fanfare or thunder. It comes softly, settling like dust on lacquered furniture, creeping into the cracks of doors, entering hearts without permission. It comes first in the pauses between conversations, in the slight tremble of servants' hands, in the way elders lean more heavily on their canes. And in the Rongo mansion, silence grew like a sickness. The once vibrant Grandview garden dimmed as the young women dispersed, married off, reassigned, or quietly dismissed. The spaces they left behind felt unbearably hollow corridors that once rang with laughter now carried only the moaning of an old building losing its strength. Even the lotus pond felt stagnant, its water disturbed only by the occasional falling leaf. Baoyu was gone. Dayu was gone. Xueqin had died. The household, once majestic, envied, celebrated, was unraveling thread by thread. And yet in the ruins, a few hearts continued beating quietly, holding on to memories as if they were the last warm embers in a cold world. Baochai sat alone in her wing of the mansion long after Baoyu disappeared. Days passed in ghostly repetition, rising, tending to chores, speaking when spoken to, navigating the flood of scandals and interrogations that tore through the Jia household. She performed her duties flawlessly. But inside her, something wilted. Sometimes she would light a lantern and sit by the window, letting its soft glow paint her silhouette against the fading dusk. "This house," she murmured once, "was never truly mine." Servants bowed when they approached her, but not out of warmth, only out of habit, fading loyalty, or perhaps pity. They knew she had done nothing wrong, yet she was trapped in a marriage that barely existed. One evening, she encountered Granny Jia sitting alone in the hall, thinner and paler than Baochai had ever seen her. "My child," the old matriarch said, her voice trembling, "you have endured more than anyone should." Baochai knelt beside her. "Grandmother, please rest. The physician said—" "Physicians?" Granny Jia laughed weakly. "They treat the body, but what medicine cures the heart? I've lived too long, long enough to watch my family crumble in my hands." She reached out, touching Baochai's cheek with cold fingers. "Tell me, do you resent us?" Baochai lowered her gaze. 1,000 answers stirred inside her, but she swallowed them all. "No, I do not resent you." "Then you are stronger than I ever was," the old woman whispered. Baochai felt tears sting her eyes, for herself, for the family, for Baoyu, for Dayu, for all the silent tragedies breathing in the walls. But she let none fall. Tears, once shed, could never be taken back. And Baochai had long mastered the art of silence. Far from the mansion, in a rural village nestled against misty mountains, a man dressed in simple robes swept the grounds of a tiny monastery at dawn. He moved slowly, not because he was weak, but because every motion seemed to be a meditation. This man was Baoyu, but he no longer answered to that name. His hair had been shaved clean. The jade he once treasured had vanished. His skin had lost the softness of noble life, replaced by the lean lines of someone who no longer sought luxury. He felt the wind touch his face and wondered, am I freer now, or simply escaping? Sometimes, When he meditated, shadows of the past drifted into his mind. Dayu laughing beneath the peach blossoms, Dayu crying alone by candlelight, Dayu turning away from him the last time he saw her alive. Other times he saw Baochai's gentle smile, tinged with a sadness he had never understood fully until his heart broke. He tried to let these visions pass, but the human heart is not a monk. It remembers. One evening, the abbot approached him as he sat on the stone steps overlooking the valley. "You carry sorrow like a cloak," the abbot said quietly. Bao Yu bowed his head. "I'm trying to release it." "Trying is not the same as letting go." "I want to let go." The abbot shook his head. "Wanting is also attachment." Bao Yu closed his eyes. "Then what must I do?" But even in silence he knew the answer would not come easily. The past was not gone. It lived within him, as vivid as the mountains before him. Back in the Jia household, Qingwen's tragedy unfolded with cruel inevitability. After Bao Yu left, she became the most vulnerable of the maids, too outspoken, too proud, too loyal to him for her own safety. The older servants resented her, whispering that she had grown arrogant from Bao Yu's affection. The household's senior women, eager to shift blame and redirect anger, singled her out. "That girl is trouble. She had no respect for propriety. She must be punished before she causes more disgrace." The accusations grew. The punishments followed. Her health, already fragile, weakened under harsh treatment. Fever gripped her. Her breathing grew shallow. In her final days, Qingwen lay on a straw mat in a tiny, cold room, stripped of everything she had once known. A young maid she had befriended visited secretly. "Qingwen," she whispered, kneeling beside her, "is there anything you want me to tell young Master Bao Yu? If we ever find him." Qingwen tried to speak, but coughed violently, blood staining her lips. When she finally calmed, she whispered, "Tell him I wasn't angry when he left. Tell him I'm glad he escaped. And tell him—" She struggled for breath, tears streaking down her face. "Tell him I wasn't a bad girl, no matter what they said." The maid sobbed, but nodded. Qingwen closed her eyes, her final thoughts drifting to the boy she had teased, protected, and loved in her own fierce way. "Young master, I hope you find peace, even if I never did." She died alone. Her spirit, unlike the noble souls in the mansion, did not rise upward. It wandered, unmoored, longing for warmth that life had denied her. The Jia household barely noticed her passing, but the universe did. Not all tears fall in vain. Meanwhile, Wang Shifeng's fall became a grim lesson in destiny's cruelty. Once the brightest flame in the household, she dwindled rapidly. Her husband betrayed her, a man she had supported and protected endlessly. Servants turned against her. The elders blamed her for misfortunes she could not control. Political enemies pointed fingers at her during investigations. She fought back with every ounce of her brilliance. But brilliance cannot defy fate. One evening, as she lay ill in her room, she murmured to her maid, "I wasn't always this hard, you know. I once believed that being strong could save me." Her maid wept silently. Xifeng's eyes softened. "Tell me, was it my cruelty that doomed me, or my strength?" The maid hesitated. "Neither, madam. It was the world." A bitter smile curved Xueqin's lips. "Then let the world answer for it." She died shortly after. Her funeral procession, once unimaginable for someone so influential, was meager. The household was too consumed by chaos to mourn her properly. Even the wind, blowing through the courtyards, felt like a sigh of regret. Another flame extinguished, another chapter closed, another reminder that power, like love, is as fragile as breath. The political downfall of the Jia clan came swiftly after that. Imperial inspectors arrived with ledgers documenting years of corruption. Officials pressured the family for unpaid debts. Titles were revoked, property seized, grand halls emptied. Jewel-inlaid furniture was carted away to pay for fines. The Rongguo mansion, once a symbol of prestige, became a battlefield of whispers, betrayals, and desperation. Bao Chai watched helplessly as servants were dismissed, rooms locked, treasure after treasure confiscated. She helped salvage what she could, but each month the household shrank a little more, its dignity peeling away like old paint. One morning, the roof of an unused building collapsed, startling the entire household. Bao Chai stood before the ruins, hugging her shawl tightly. So this is the fate of a great house, she thought, not with explosions or screams, but with quiet decay. She imagined Dayu walking among the fallen beams, reciting poetry about impermanence. She imagined Bao Yu standing beside her, angry at the world's injustice. Neither were here to witness the end. Perhaps that was a small mercy. Months turned to a year. The Jia mansion became a hollow echo of its past grandeur. Servants hurried quietly, avoiding eye contact. Dust gathered in the corners of empty rooms, broken lanterns swayed in the wind. One night, during a heavy storm, Bao Chai sat alone in her room, listening to the thunder crack across the sky. She held the silk wedding sash she had worn on her reluctant wedding day. Its colors faded now. Suddenly, a messenger arrived, soaked from rain. "Lady Bao Chai," he said breathlessly, "the monks from the Langquan temple. They sent a letter. They say someone resembling young Master Bao Yu was seen there months ago, but he has since disappeared again." Her heart tightened. Did they say where he went? No, only that he looked unwell. Bao Chai closed her eyes, her fingers trembling against the sash. "Bao Yu, why must your suffering know no end?" But she didn't cry. She simply whispered into the storm, "Wherever you are, I hope the heavens let you rest." At the monastery, Bao Yu continued his quiet existence, unaware of the chaos unfolding behind him. He spent hours sweeping the courtyard or gathering firewood trying to empty his mind, but memories clung like vines, twisting around his heart, no matter how he tried to prune them away. He remembered Dayu's voice, soft, sharp, trembling with emotion. He remembered Qingwen's laughter, honest and unafraid. He remembered Bao Chai's steady gaze, gentle, patient, resigned. How many hearts did I break without meaning to? How many people suffered because of my existence? One night, during meditation, Bao Yu felt a presence beside him. He opened his eyes. A white butterfly hovered near the candle flame, its wings glimmering like falling snow. He watched it flutter gently, circling him once, twice, before landing on the jade prayer bead bracelet he wore. His breath caught. "Die you?" he whispered. But the butterfly rose again and vanished through the window, leaving him alone with the echo of a love that had transcended life itself. Time passed in quiet waves. The monastery changed. Baoyu changed. Even the mountains seemed to shift subtly, though perhaps it was only his perception shifting as he learned to see the world not through longing, but through acceptance. One afternoon, as he walked along a narrow forest path collecting herbs, he encountered a wandering monk. The stranger bowed. "Do you seek enlightenment here?" Baoyu hesitated. "I seek release." "Release from what?" "Memory?" The monk smiled gently. "Memory is not a chain. It is a mirror. You may look away, but the reflection is always there." Baoyu lowered his head. "Then what must I do?" "Turn the mirror," the monk said. "Let it reflect not your past suffering, but the truth beyond it." "What truth?" "That everything you lost was never truly yours, and everything you loved remains with you regardless." Baoyu's eyes stung. The monk continued walking, leaving behind a silence that felt somehow lighter than before. Meanwhile, the Jia clan faced the final blow. A decree from the emperor declared their clan stripped of all remaining titles and privileges. The mansion's last properties were confiscated. The remaining family members were relocated to smaller, modest dwellings. When the day of eviction arrived, Bao Chai stood in the courtyard watching as officials catalogued and seized what was left. Her hands remained steady, but something inside her had already broken beyond repair. Granny Jia had passed away months earlier, her heart too heavy to continue. Her funeral had been simple, attended by only a handful of loyal servants. Bao Chai had lit incense for her, offering a final prayer for peace. Now, Bao Chai faced the future alone. As she left the mansion for the last time, she looked back at the crumbling gates. "So many souls pass through these doors," she whispered. "So much joy, so much sorrow." A breeze stirred through the ruins, carrying the faint scent of fallen leaves. Bao Chai closed her eyes and imagined Dayu's poetry drifting in the air like the last breath of a fading dream. Far away, in another corner of the world, Baoyu felt the wind shift. He didn't know why, but he sensed an ending. He rose from meditation and stepped outside, letting the cold air fill his lungs. "Everything is falling apart," he thought. "Everything that once defined me is gone." A monk approached him. "There is a traveler seeking you," the monk said. "A traveler?" "Yes, a young woman from the city." Baoyu's heart skipped. For one irrational moment he thought, "Bao Chai?" But when he stepped into the courtyard, he found someone else, a maid, one he faintly recognized. She knelt before him, tears streaming down her face. "Master Baoyu, forgive me for intruding, but I have news." His breath tightened. "What news?" "Miss Xueqin. She passed away. She asked me to find you." Baoyu's knees weakened. He steadied himself on a wooden post. How did she die?" "She suffered greatly in the household after you left, but before she died she said she wasn't angry with you. she hoped you would find peace. Bao Yu's vision blurred. Xueqin, my brave, loyal Xueqin, the maid continued, voice trembling. And the Jia mansion, it has fallen completely. Bao Yu bowed his head. I knew, he whispered. I felt it. The maid offered him a small bundle. This was found among Miss Lin Daiyu's belongings when she passed. The elders kept it hidden, but I thought it belonged to you. With shaking hands, Bao Yu opened the bundle. Inside was a tiny cloth sachet, embroidered with fragile, delicate stitches. He recognized the embroidery immediately. It was Daiyu's. His tears fell silently onto the fabric. Daiyu, even at the end, you thought of me. The maid wiped her eyes. Miss Bao Chai, she's alone now. She deserves happiness too. Bao Yu closed his eyes. Bao Chai, I have failed them all. The maid bowed deeply. This is all I came to say. Take care of yourself, Master Bao Yu. She left, and Bao Yu stood in the courtyard for a long, long time, holding Daiyu's sachet as though it were a lifeline to a world that no longer existed. The seasons continued their eternal turning. Bao Yu began to teach younger monks how to read, meditate, and understand compassion. He tended the gardens with gentle hands. He learned to observe his pain without becoming it. Sometimes he even smiled, not from joy, but from a peaceful resignation. Yet he never forgot. Memory softened, but never faded. One spring morning, when flowers bloomed across the mountainside, the abbot approached him. There is a final journey you must make, the abbot said. A journey? To the old world you left behind? Bao Yu's heart trembled. Why? To see its end. Only then will you understand your beginning. Bao Yu hesitated. I don't know if I'm ready. No one ever is. And so Bao Yu returned. Not to the mansion. There was nothing left there, but to the city where the remnants of the Jia clan now lived in quiet obscurity. He walked among familiar streets, now altered by time. He visited the small residence where the surviving family members resided. He expected to find Bao Chai. But when he arrived, he learned she had left the city days earlier, disappearing without leaving a trace. Some said she had joined a convent. Others whispered she remarried far away. Still others claimed she simply walked into the horizon alone, seeking a place where no memories followed her. Bao Yu felt a quiet ache. For all she endured, she deserved far better. He set out to find her, traveling through villages and towns, asking monks, farmers, and wanderers if they had seen a woman matching her description. But she remained elusive, as if she had stepped out of the mortal world entirely. The threads connecting them, a marriage forced by duty, a companionship unfulfilled, had dissolved into the vast tapestry of fate, and Bao Yu understood finally that their story had never been meant to end together. Love is not always a shared path. Sometimes it is two parallel lines, touching only in memory. As Bao Yu journeyed onward, he visited the place where Daiyu had been buried. The grave was simple, marked only by a stone without inscription, either because the family lacked the means or because they believed her frailty was better honored by simplicity. He knelt before the grave, placing the embroidered sachet upon the earth. "Dayu," he whispered, "I came." The wind rustled through the grass. Petals drifted from a nearby tree, settling on his shoulders like the softest of embraces. "I'm sorry," he continued, voice trembling, "for everything, for not saving you, for not choosing you loudly enough, for letting fate decide for us." He closed his eyes. "I loved you. I still do." For a moment, he felt something warm, like a presence beside him, delicate and familiar. He didn't move, didn't breathe. He simply let it surround him. Whether it was her spirit or his own longing, he could not say, but it comforted him. When he finally rose, he felt lighter, not healed, but lighter. Bao Yu continued traveling for months, visiting temples, villages, remote valleys, until one day he reached a mountain path shrouded in cloud. An old hermit greeted him. "Traveler," the hermit said, "you look as though you carry many ghosts." "I carry memories," Bao Yu replied. "Then you carry ghosts." The hermit studied him closely. "You have shed the world, but not yourself." "What does that mean?" "You have forgiven others," the hermit said softly, "but not yourself." Bao Yu felt his breath catch. The hermit touched his chest. "In your heart lives a boy who failed to protect those he loved. But that boy was not meant to save them. He was meant to feel them." Bao Yu bowed his head. "In this world," the hermit continued, "suffering is not proof of failure. It is proof of love." Tears slipped silently down Bao Yu's face. "At last," the hermit whispered, "you understand." Years passed. And then, on a morning when mist curled along the river like drifting silk, Bao Yu felt something inside him shift. He rose from meditation and walked into the forest, following a path he had never taken before. He walked until he reached a clearing flooded with light, and there, standing before him, was the stone, the one he had once been. It shimmered with a faint, otherworldly glow, as if waiting for him all this time. Bao Yu stepped closer. "Are you calling me home?" he asked. The stone pulsed gently. He touched it, and a flood of memories filled him. Not memories of Bao Yu, but of the stone, of the heavens, of the crimson pearl fairy, of a love that transcended lifetimes. Everything became clear. He had descended to repay a debt of tears. Dayu had descended to return tears she owed. Bao Chai had walked beside him as a grounding force. Xueqin had loved him fiercely without expectation. Xueqin had taught him the price of power. Granny Jia had preserved a fragile world for as long as she could. Every person in the Jia mansion had been part of his destiny, part of the stone's desire to understand humanity, part of his journey toward enlightenment. Bao Yu smiled, a real, sincere smile. "For all the pain," he whispered, "I'm grateful." The stone glowed brighter, and then Bao Yu vanished, not violently, not tragically. He simply faded into light, returning to where he had always belonged. The world moved on. Poets wrote stories of the Jia clan's rise and fall. Scholars debated the causes of their downfall, morality, politics, fate. The Grand View Garden's ruins were eventually reclaimed by nature. Trees grew over collapsed walls. Flowers sprouted between broken stones. The pond filled with reeds and dragonflies. But sometimes, when wind rustled through the bamboo, people claimed to hear faint laughter, the echo of young women reading poetry, the sound of silk shoes gliding across bridges, the whisper of a boy and girl reciting verses beneath the moon. Memory lived where the heart remembered, and some stories refused to fade. In the end, Dream of the Red Chamber was never merely the story of a family. It was the story of a stone seeking humanity, a flower repaying tears, a boy searching for meaning, a girl loving with fragile intensity, another girl sacrificing her heart for duty, a maid dying for loyalty, a matriarch mourning her legacy, a phoenix burning too brightly and too briefly, a clan collapsing under its own splendor, a world reminding us that beauty is fleeting. It was a dream, brilliant, heartbreaking, unforgettable. A dream that asked, is love worth the sorrow it brings? Is beauty worth the impermanence? Is life worth living, knowing it will end? And the answer, whispered by every character, was always yes, because to feel deeply, even if it hurts, is the essence of being alive.